Greetings everyone! Today I will be reacting to why shouldn't you mess with the USA? This is gonna be a military video. I haven't done one of these in I wanna say a long time, but it's not true. But yeah, a couple of weeks. I really like to learn about the military type of stuff and I don't know much. So yeah, these videos are pretty good. And your comments even better, so please comment down below because I'm a newbie in this type of stuff. Let's go.
Have you ever wondered why no one had attacked America, despite their interventions all across the world? Well, there are at least 6 very persuasive arguments why no one dares mess with the US. Huge army. They say that size doesn't matter, but when it comes to the US Army, size
Only your girlfriend says that.
is everything. With a staggering 487,000 active duty soldiers and nearly 1.3 million total personnel, it's like an entire
Wait, do we have subtitles? It's better for all these numbers. Okay.
metropolitan mobilized for duty. Actually, most capitals in the world would have a smaller population than the US Army.
That
This
is
vast
crazy.
network of dedicated men and women forms the backbone of the Army's strength and capability. The US Army is the land-based unit tasked with defending the nation, safeguarding its interests, and promoting global security. Their responsibility extends beyond territorial borders, often involving humanitarian missions, peacekeeping efforts, and disaster relief operations. Their commitment to preserving peace and stability, both domestically and internationally, highlights the noble purpose behind their actions. In short, the US Army is like the
But actually, it's gonna be pretty difficult for an enemy to attack the US because, I mean, you have to go by sea to attack the US. You only got Canada and Mexico pretty much to attack on land from, yeah, definitely, yes. The only two countries that are bordering the US are Canada in the north and in the south, Mexico. Or am I mistaken? No. That's like that. So it's gonna be pretty difficult if the US keeps good contact with those bordering countries. It's gonna be really difficult to attack by land. So an attack by air is always it's easier to predict it. You know, to stop it. Just look at what Israel did with the missiles from Iran. So yeah, I think one thing that the US has is really like a huge actually advantage on the land, for sure. Other countries don't have it, especially in Europe or Middle East.
world's toughest bouncer, keeping troublemakers at bay. Of course, there are far bigger armies in the world. The Chinese and Indian have superiority in numbers, but the efficient weaponry and professionalism give the US Army an edge over them. While both China and India predominantly rely on a conscript army, the US force is entirely professional. This means they are rigorously trained and involves soul-crushing exercises and an in-depth understanding of military tactics. Moreover, each soldier has to take an annual United States Army combat fitness test designed to check the readiness of all available personnel. The ACFT is intended to represent movements on an active battlefield closely. It includes basic exercises like squats, deadlifts, power throws, push-ups, pull-ups, and a 2-mile run. Soldiers that fail the test are put under observation to meet the standards for the next test. That's why most US soldiers actually look like they can bench press an Abrams tank. Thankfully, the US Army has enough Abrams to go around. That's the main battle tank of the United States. About 5,000 M1 Abram tanks are used, while another 3,000 lay in storage, with some being dismantled for spare parts. Along with the tanks, the Army has 6,724 Bradley fighting vehicles, 4,466 Stryker armored personnel carriers, 600 armored combat support vehicles, and around 25,000 mine-protected vehicles. And if that's not enough, the US Army has about 2,200 self-propelled artillery units, among which are 500 HIMARS systems. These bad boys were the game changer in the Russo-Ukraine war that's still raging on. As you can imagine, this doesn't come cheap. So if you're wondering why America has no universal healthcare, well, you needn't look any further than their military spending. The United States allocates around 15% of its entire spending on its military force.
Wow,
this
15%.
accounts for $877 billion.
That is a lot.
4 Elon Musks combined couldn't upkeep such a massive force. The US defense budget accounts for around 38% of the entire global military spending, and it's bigger than the next 10 countries combined. The second in this regard is China, with a $292 billion budget, while Russia is third with $86 billion. The US Army gets about $177 billion of the total budget, which would be the world's third best financed army right after China. Of course, the huge and well-funded army is just the tip of the iceberg. After all, in a war, whoever controls the sky controls the battlefield. Of course, the US military doctrine knows this very well. Air Force. Few can rival the United States Air Force when it comes to military might. If you remember the Dumb Ways to Die song,
So many dumb ways to die.
What is that? I never heard that.
probably be right up there after poke a stick at a grizzly bear. Though admittedly, you have a chance against a grizzly. That's more than could be said when you mess up with the US Air Force. With over 330,000 active duty personnel and a vast number in reserves, this military branch is a formidable powerhouse on its own. They have a level of organization and discipline that allows them to execute complex operations with precision and efficiency. The numbers, as always, are meaningless without the equipment, and the US Air Force equipment is the best in the world. With over 5,200 military aircraft, the US has the largest aerial armada in history. The bulk comprises the F-Series fighter jets, 1,511 units, or 29% of all Air Force. The most common fighter jet in the US Army is the F-16C. Still, the rock star of the show is the F-22A Raptor. This fearsome machinery could make even the bravest soldier cry like a little girl. Its technology is so advanced that some experts with tinfoil head attire will suggest that the aliens are behind this design. Or why not the five-dimensional lizards who control the world? Still, looking at the Raptor's capabilities, they might be onto something. After all, the F-22A has the ability to supercruise, meaning it can sustain supersonic speeds without the need for afterburners. This capability allows the aircraft to cover long distances quickly while conserving fuel. Moreover, the jet is equipped with state-of-the-art avionics systems, including advanced radar, sensors, and electronic warfare systems. These technologies provide the pilot with comprehensive situational awareness and enable effective engagement of multiple targets simultaneously. And since that's not enough of an
I want to make a reaction in, in more detail about these F-22 aircraft or the Air Force in general. This seems very interesting. I would like to understand, or try at least to understand the scientific behind this, because it's so cool, it's so interesting.
Vantage, the F-22A Raptor is practically invisible.
Probably it's gonna be classified for sure, but I mean, at least like get a little bit of an understanding could be fine.
Its design incorporates stealth technology, making it difficult to detect by enemy radar systems. Its shape, materials, and coatings help reduce its radar signature, allowing it to operate deep within hostile airspace with reduced risk of detection. Detecting one of these bad boys is like detecting a bee from 100 miles. Easy peasy. The F-22A Raptor is like a flying army on its own. It has an impressive arsenal of air-to-air and air-to-ground weapons. The jet carries internally stored missiles, such as the AIM-9X Sidewinder and A-120 AMRAAM, as well as precision-guided bombs and air-to-surface missiles. Its weapons systems are integrated with its advanced sensor suite, enabling precise targeting and engagement. As if that's not terrifying enough, the US Air Force also has a fleet of 152 bombers. 19 of them are the strategic B-2 Spirit bombers, each one costing about...
That's the stuff that people say, I saw an UFO last night and a UFO. I mean, look at the shape. Yeah, that's crazy.
$2 billion. These
$2 billion for one.
19 of them are the strategic
Wow.
B-2 Spirit bombers, each one costing about $2 billion.
Wow, that
These
is
expensive
crazy.
beauties have low observable
Wow.
characteristics that extend beyond their radar signature. It also minimizes its infrared, acoustic, electromagnetic, and visual signatures, further enhancing its survivability and reducing the enemy's ability to detect and target it. In simple terms, the B-2 is practically invisible, and you thought the
That's
Spirit
crazy.
nickname was just for show. The B-2 is designed with advanced stealth features that significantly reduce its radar signature. Its sleek shape, composite materials, and special coatings enable
Yeah,
it
it
to
looks like a
penetrate deep
robotic
into enemy
pigeon.
territory undetected, making it extremely difficult to track and engage with air defense systems. To add insult to injury, the B-2 has an exceptional range of over 6,000 nautical miles, 11,000 kilometers, without refueling,
Wow.
allowing it to
What?
strike targets located deep within enemy territory. This long-range
That's
capability
crazy.
enables the bomber to conduct missions globally without needing forward basing or extensive aerial refueling support. To top it all off, the B-2 is equipped with advanced defense.
How much do you pay for get like a full to full up all the fuel inside? I mean, how much do you pay the fuel for that bad boy? I mean, I think it's gonna be so expensive, right? I mean, 11,000 kilometers he can do without with a full fuel. That is crazy. Oh my god. I mean, sorry, these words are too complicated.
Defense systems, including
Wow.
radar warning receivers, infrared countermeasures, and a defensive management system. These capabilities help protect the bomber against enemy threats, enhancing its survivability in hostile environments. As you can imagine, these gadgets cost money, and the Air Force is handsomely compensated. For 2023, the budget of this branch of the military is approximately $194 billion.
Wow,
Well,
that's
to be
1/3.
honest, this
Oh,
includes
1/4.
the Space Force, and they do work on some seriously top secret stuff. So who knows? Death lasers from space next year, perhaps? Are you scared yet? Don't be silly. We still haven't told you about the most terrifying aspects of the US military. Now go change your pants, and let's get right back to it. Navy. There have been some terrifying naval superiorities over the centuries. The Spanish Armada, the British Navy, and the sea turtles from Finding Nemo. None of them, however, can come even close to the behemoth that is the US Navy. The naval superiority of the United States Armed Forces is simply overwhelming. Not only can no other country compare, the entire world combined can't even come close to the sheer force and numbers of this colossal power. With 350,000 personnel and 485 vessels under their command, the US ensures nothing happens on the high seas without their knowledge. Moreover, as they are determined to retain their superiority, the US Navy has ordered another 90 ships that are either in construction
That is
or being
crazy.
planned. When it comes to equipment, the US Navy doesn't rely on old dragon-headed Viking ships. No, they opt for a space-age technology infused into their massive force. With 11 aircraft carriers, the US Navy guarantees that its fleet will not only be dominant in the seas, but also in the sky. Just so you can imagine how overwhelming the US naval power is, you can check how long it took 5 aircraft carriers to take down the entire Iraqi air defense systems in 2003. It took them.
Oh, I
under a
definitely need to
week.
check out
After
that.
that, the war continued for merely 6 weeks before all major hostilities ended. Along with the carriers, the US Navy also boasts a massive fleet of 22 cruisers, 62 destroyers, 12 dock landing ships, 17 frigates, 4 guided missile submarines, 53 attack submarines, 9 amphibious assault ships, 2 amphibious command ships, 9 amphibious transport docks, 3 littoral combat ships, 13 mine countermeasure ships, and hundreds of other support ships. As you can imagine, this doesn't come cheap. And naturally, the US Navy gets the lion's share of the defense budget. For 2023, the US Navy has $230 billion,
Makes sense,
which is
makes
almost
sense.
as high as the entire Chinese military budget. Still,
That is
these ships are
insane.
not the most terrifying thing about the Navy.
I mean, Earth is pretty much mostly water, so it makes sense to invest more money into the Navy.
This honor goes to one of the deadliest special forces in the world, Navy SEAL Team 6. To become part of this team,
Ooh, that is the one. Wait, wasn't it the one that I checked out before that rescued the women, Jessica Buchanan? Was Navy Team 6, if I'm not mistaken,
have to
no?
literally go through torture, as the recruiting process consists of sleep deprivation, hypothermia resistance, electric shocks, waterboarding, mental torture, and of course, rigorous physical exercises. Unsurprisingly, there are more deaths during the recruitment process than during missions in this team. As you can see, the Navy is not just a bunch of sailors armed with rubber ducks and water pistols. These highly trained professionals eat, sleep, and breathe the sea. So
That's
naturally,
crazy.
they are experts at hosting elaborate sink-your-own-battle
Yeah, I mean, special forces is something insane. Like a civilian like me cannot even start to imagine how can you endure something like that. I actually listened to a Spanish podcast a couple of years ago. There was this guy, of course, he concealed his identity in the video, you know, but he was telling about his life in the Mexican military. He was special forces. He was talking about the training that he had to endure to become one of the top tier special forces in Mexico. That was insane, but that like really opened my eyes, you know, like the motivation that you can find. Like when you have a project, you know, you feel like, no, I'm not good enough. You listen to that kind of stuff. It's really motivating. It's really, really cool. I really like this type of stuff. So yeah, special forces are, yeah, they're different. They're built different. But anyone probably, if has the right motivation, can do it. But as he said, most people die, so it's not for everyone for sure.
ship parties. Furthermore, the Navy's primary goal is to protect the interests of the United States and ensure the free flow of goods and services across the world's oceans. They are the guardians of the seas, the maritime superheroes who keep pirates, smugglers, and giant sea monsters at bay. No wonder you haven't heard Liam Neeson shouting to release the Kraken. The Kraken is scared. And how can it be otherwise when 1/3 of
I
the
love
US
this
nuclear
narration.
triad is cruising the seas, and another is flying menacingly over its head? As for the third one, well, let's find out. ICBMs.
What is
The
that?
third part of the nuclear triad is the land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles. Those are positioned all across the United States and can reach every city
Missiles.
in the world. So don't worry, you are just one red button push away from being obliterated. Well, not exactly.
Is that a real thing, the red button?
The entire launch process is much more complicated and secretive. Still, there is certainly not one giant red button in the Oval Office that sends all the nukes to wherever Joe Biden said in a Dementia episode. The US land-based nuclear warheads are currently mounted on a $7 million LGM-30 Minuteman III. The US has 400 of these bad boys spread all across America. Another 14 nuclear warheads are deep under the sea, carried by nuclear-capable Ohio-class Trident submarines. 5 are in the Atlantic, and 9 are in the Pacific. So there's no safe place on Earth if you think you've been left behind. The rest of the 1,365 operational warheads are placed on B-2 strategic bombers, ready to rain hell from the skies. The ICBMs, however, are rarely used. Those are for extreme cases. And thankfully, we haven't crossed this bridge yet. So, for now, the US forces predominantly use UGM-109 Tomahawk and UGM-84 Harpoon submarine-launched missiles when it comes to submarine warfare. Otherwise, the US Armed Forces have a range of deadly spears, such as the AIM-7 Sparrow air-to-air missile, AGM-114 Hellfire air-to-surface missile, MIM-104 Patriot surface-to-air missile, and the FGM-148 Javelin surface-to-surface missile, to name a few. And while each one of these deadly beauties costs a small fortune, they are highly effective due to one simple fact. They are part of the US Precision-Guided Munition Policy. Precision-Guided Munitions. If, despite all the firepower, nukes, and missiles, you're still deranged enough to think you can come on top in a war against the US, you're in for a treat. Not only do the US Armed Forces have a stockpile of munitions that can probably topple Everest, but most of their heavy weaponry uses precision-guided munitions, or PGMs. The smart bombs, as these ultra-modern death toys are called, are used in all US military branches and have one task and one task alone: to be precise. This means that they can hit a specific target based on one of a few options. For example, they can be GPS, infrared, or laser guided. These weapons are so effective that despite their high manufacturing price, they are worth every cent. For example, in the First Gulf War, PGMs comprised only 9% of the used weapons, yet accounted for about 75% of all successful hits. So naturally, after 1991, the US military invested heavily in developing and enhancing these weapons' capabilities. And if you think Skynet is behind this entire endeavor, waiting to destroy the world, the 6th reason why you shouldn't mess with the US will definitely not give you any peace of mind. Drones. If the Russo-Ukrainian war taught us something, it's that whoever has the most drones has the advantage. It's quite astounding seeing a $2 million rocket downing a $20,000 drone. It's quite cost-effective. Thus, the force that has the most drones has the biggest advantage. Guess who has the most drones? Come on, I'll wait. Yes, the US has at least 11,000 unmanned aircraft systems, better known as drones. Those are the mosquitoes of the battlefield, pesky, deadly, and tough to get rid of. While just several years back, the UASs were used entirely for surveillance, after the start of the War on Terror, the US has invested heavily in transforming them from a support tool to a prime weapon against the enemy. Obviously, messing with the United States Armed Forces is not a good idea. But, on the other hand, maybe a quick presidential assassination will do the trick. After all,
come on, why?
the NSA doesn't have the best record at keeping presidents alive. Still, you may find they upped their game quite a lot in the past few years. Just check out how the US president travels.
Wow, I do want to see that. I do want to see that, definitely. Yeah, even in Italy, we had quite our stories of politicians that were kidnapped and killed. The best example is Aldo Moro, definitely. And yeah, this video was really interesting. It makes me makes me feel happy that Italy is part of NATO. Definitely. I mean, that was really cool. That was really cool. I mean, I a little bit like paced out on some stuff because it's really complicated. It's a lot to take in, but it was a really nice video. I wanna get more into detail. I'm waiting for many comments to explain to me most of these technologies because it's really hard to understand it with just one video. I mean, I like to check out videos like that, but they most of the times they're just showing you like, oh, this country has this amount of this amount of that, but they never get into detail showing you how this works, what is the science behind, what is the potential damage that that weapon can do. And yeah, I like to learn that stuff too. So if anyone wants to help, I don't know, you're very welcome to do so. Hope you've enjoyed my reaction, guys. Please forgive my bad English. If you have any other recommendations, let me know down in the comments and I will do that video very soon. See you soon.